In the heart of the Sistine Chapel, on the wall of the altar, Michelangelo Buonarroti raised a total vision of human destiny that shook his century and continues to move ours. The Last Judgment is not merely a gigantic fresco, it is a storm of figures swirling around Christ, a whirlwind where flesh becomes idea and color becomes thunder, a theology painted with muscles, light, and shadow. Commissioned by Pope Paul III Farnese and completed between the years 1536 and 1541, the work replaced earlier frescoes by Perugino, as if time itself had stepped aside to make room for a new, audacious, and terrible vision of the end of days and the mystery of mercy. Michelangelo was already over 60 years old when he undertook the project, celebrated as the giant of the Renaissance. But the Last Judgment does not speak the triumphant language of youth. Its language is another, the language of experience that knows the weight of guilt, of old age that has seen empires and friends fall, of the soul that understands that all beauty is a battle against shadow. That is why the Christ at the center is not a distant judge. He is a son of flesh that explodes with a gesture igniting everything. Beside him, the Virgin lowers her face with a mixture of modesty and compassion. Around them, a crown of saints displays instruments of martyrdom as if they were emblems of victory. There is no architecture to contain the scene. Only sky and bodies. Only destiny and movement. The composition is organized like an immense spiral. Above, angels display the symbols of the Passion, the cross, and the column. In the central ring, Christ separates with his gesture the two paths of the soul. To his right, the blessed ascend in waves of light. To his left, the condemned fall with a weight that hurts. Below, the dead emerge from the earth, assisted by angels blowing their trumpets. From the underworld, Charon strikes with his oar those arriving in his boat, and Minos, with the ears of an ass, presides with a grimace over the entrance to torment. The presence of Charon and Minos, figures born from Dante's song, was an unprecedented audacity. Michelangelo united poetry and theology, myth and dogma, to declare that the judgment of God runs through all stories of the human spirit. Color was conceived as a climate. It is not the pure blue of the ceiling that centuries of smoke blackened. Here, the atmosphere vibrates with deep blues, scorched earths, violent pinks, and faint greens, as if the palette imitated a sky before a storm. The brushstroke is firm, almost sculptural. You can sense the hand of the carver who had tamed marble and now molded air as if it were soft stone. Anatomy is not ostentation, it is language. Each muscle signifies moral strength. Each torsion of the body reveals a battle of the soul. Among the most unsettling secrets of the work is the figure of Saint Bartholomew, the flayed martyr, who holds his own empty skin like a shroud. In the face of that skin, many have recognized the self-portrait of Michelangelo himself. If that reading is true, the artist shows himself as a stripped mask, a self laid bare to the bone, a man presenting himself before judgment with no defense but the truth of his art. Beside him, Saint Catherine holds the wheel of her torment and Saint Lawrence embraces his grill with fierce calm. The saints do not pose, they burn. They are embers of history and testimony. The scandal came quickly. The multitude of nudes that fill the wall, conceived as a new humanity born at the dawn of the last day, ignited the anger of moralists and scholars. The Pope's master of ceremonies, Biagio de Cesane, said that so many naked figures were suitable for public baths, not for a chapel. Michelangelo avenged himself with immortal irony. He painted Biagio in hell as Minos, with the ears of a donkey and a serpent coiled around him. When the portrayed man begged the Pope to remove it, Paul III replied humorously that his jurisdiction did not extend to hell. The episode reveals the artist's temper and his inner freedom in the face of power, even while working for the summit of the church. Decades later, under the climate of reform and vigilance that followed the Council of Trent, censorship arrived. The demand to cover bodies arose as a reaction to the moral climate of the time, and as a correction to what was seen as excess. Daniele da Volterra, disciple and friend, was commissioned to add draperies to multiple figures. From then on, he was nicknamed Il Brighitone, the painter of breaches. Many veils remained for centuries as visible scars of a battle between art and modesty. Even so, the work preserved its fire. Nothing could extinguish the heartbeat of that overflowing humanity that gazes with awe at the most decisive moment of its existence. There were also changes of interpretation. In the 19th century, some saw in the central Christ a harshness that did not move them. In the 20th, many eyes discovered a judge in tension between justice and compassion. Today, a still more complex vision emerges. Christ does not condemn out of whim. His gesture is a wave that places each being before the mirror of his own life. It is not an arbitrary sentence. It is a revelation. In that reading, Michelangelo anticipates a spirituality that looks less at punishment and more at inner truth. The Last Judgment would then be less a threat and more a call to awakening. The fresco suffered the same darkness as the vault. For centuries, candle smoke, dust, varnish, and overpainting veiled its colors. The Great Restoration, undertaken in the second half of the 20th century, restored its original brilliance. The process was long and meticulous. Layers that obscured the image were removed, pigments were studied, each discovery was documented, and scaffolds brought the present closer to the master's breath. When it was completed, the world saw a judgment alive with brightness and transparency that many had never imagined. The delicacy of the pinks, the depth of the blues, the fierce vitality of the ochres reappeared. There were voices that feared excessive cleaning, yet technical analyses and preparatory drawings confirmed the artist's chromatic intent. The result was a sky more vivid, more truthful, as if the fresco had been reborn. Among the most powerful zones is the lower register. There the angels of the apocalypse blow their trumpets, and the earth opens like a dark flower to deliver its dead. A skeleton emerges from the clay, while another man is lifted upward by the force of a rosary held by an angel. To one side, demons and men blend in a struggle of shadows. A condemned soul covers his face with his hand in a gesture of silent horror. That gesture, almost modern, seems to say that hell begins with the shame of seeing oneself without masks. The boundary between the visible and the spiritual becomes as thin as a thread of light. The angels who hold the instruments of the Passion form a symbolic portal: the cross, the ladder, the nails, the lance, the sponge, the column. These objects of wood and iron shine here as jewels of destiny. They do not glorify suffering. They signify the price of love. Michelangelo does not narrate anecdotes. He builds a climate where each object sounds a grave note in a moral symphony. The general music is that of a great return. Everything comes back to its beginning. Everything arranges itself under a gaze that encompasses all and yet inclines toward each personal story with severe tenderness. The drawing is tense and sure. The torsions, the contrapposti, and the foreshortenings push the grammar of the body to its limit. Some figures seem to detach themselves from the wall, others turn upon themselves like flames. This dynamism announces the sensibility of mannerism and at the same time surpasses it. The artist who in his youth imagined perfect heroes, in his maturity painted creatures in luminous crisis. There is no beauty without risk. There is no salvation without struggle. That is why the Judgment is also a self-portrait of the world Michelangelo inhabited, an Italy torn by wars, reforms, and fears, yet still capable of building cathedrals of meaning from stone and lime. The theology that breathes within the fresco is not from books, it is from flesh. Salvation ascends with bodies helping one another, with hands pulling other hands, with gazes that lift. Condemnation descends with bodies pushing, with gestures that wound, with faces that refuse to see. The message is clear and fierce. We are saved together, or we are lost alone. Heaven is not a cloud, it is communion. Hell is not an abyss of fire, it is the rupture of all bonds. From that intuition arises the emotion that disarms us when we stand before the wall. We do not see strangers, we see ourselves. There are also taboos and murmurs that time has turned into legend. It has been said that Michelangelo used models from life, that he painted faces of friends and enemies, that he prolonged his passion for anatomy, studied in silent nights beside cadavers. Some even say that certain female figures conceal masculine strength, that some torsions blur gender to express a common humanity beyond all labels. Rather than provoke, Michelangelo sought to purify. If all rise again, a new essential humanity is reborn, one in which what matters is not the outer form but the inner flame. The chosen location was no accident. Painting the judgment above the altar meant placing every mass under the horizon of the last day. Every celebration becomes a rehearsal for eternity. The wall burns with a mute catechism that accompanies priest and people in an unending dialogue. It is an eschatological mirror returning to each soul the fundamental question: where is your life tending? What do you do with the light you were given? Where do you place your strength, your time, your love? No viewer leaves unscathed. The painting is not only to be seen, it sees you. When one steps back a few paces, the whole beats like a gigantic heart. When one comes close, each gesture contains a novel. An angel grasps by the wrist, a resurrected soul, not yet able to walk in the light. Another snatches from a demon the foot of a condemned man who resists. A group of souls climbs through the air by a rosary that serves as a lifeline. A condemned man clings to another like a drowning sailor, but that embrace turns to chain. It is an ethics written in anatomy, a wordless poem where every verb is a muscle and every adverb a reflection. The Last Judgment is also a lesson on the power of art to cross epochs. It has been admired, attacked, covered, restored, and debated. It survived censorships, fires of ideas, tempests of taste. Today, it shines with a force that seems new and yet is the same as at its birth, the force of a human truth, spoken through extreme beauty. Great art does not age. It changes the eyes that behold it. It teaches us to see. It demands depth. Perhaps the ultimate secret of the work lies in the silence that surrounds it when the chapel empties. In that soft half-light, the wall breathes. Christ still holds his arm raised. Mary lowers her eyes. The saints murmur victories that do not humiliate. The angels hold tools that no longer wound. Below, the earth still opens, and hell still burns, not to frighten, but to remind that all freedom carries weight. Then one understands that Michelangelo did not paint an end. He painted a decision. He painted the hour when every life becomes exact before the light. And thus the Last Judgment remains a hymn of flesh and color to the greatest mystery. The mystery of a justice that is not vengeance, and a mercy that is not forgetfulness, of a God who is both fire and embrace, of a man who ascends when he loves and falls when he closes himself. In that tension, everything is at stake. That is why this wall is not a document of the past. It is an eternal present. Each time we look upon it, that arm rises again, that boat collides once more, that rosary pulls upward, and with them the question that defines all existence rekindles within us: what will you do with your light when your hour arrives? When one contemplates the Last Judgment from the center of the Sistine Chapel, something profound happens in the silence. It is not merely awe before technical mastery or the vastness of the wall. It is the sensation that all human history is happening before our eyes. Every inch vibrates as if time had been both stopped and expanded. Christ does not seem motionless. He seems to move in an eternal present. His arms are the axis of the universe, and around him the destinies of men revolve like planets drawn by the gravity of light. In his face there is no wrath, but a solemnity containing both justice and compassion. It is not a punishing God, but a mirror revealing what each soul has built within itself. The viewer feels the weight of silence and motion at once. The bodies that ascend do so with a muscular grace that belongs not to air but to spirit. Those who fall do not fall by condemnation, but by choice, by the weight of their own actions. Michelangelo achieved what no theologian had ever put into words: human freedom as the vertex of mystery. No figure is fixed, None seems condemned forever, all appear in transit, at the very instant the soul defines itself. The fresco has become a perpetual lesson on the power of art as a language of the sacred. No sermon, no treatise, no music could express with such clarity the tension between fear and hope, between body and eternity. Michelangelo united all disciplines in a single gesture. He painted as a sculptor, thought as a philosopher, and prayed as a man who knew the night. Every stroke is impregnated with faith and doubt. Every color is a confession, every shadow a question. The judgment is not merely the representation of an end, but the spiritual testament of an artist who had seen his friends, his ideals, and his youth die, and who still believed in light. Through the centuries, each restoration has been a resurrection. When the layer of dust that covered the fresco was removed, tones emerged that seemed newly painted. The pinks of the flesh, the greens of the horizon, and the blues of the sky regained their original power. Specialists discovered tiny strokes, barely perceptible details that reveal the artist's almost mystical precision. The restoration did not only return the color, it returned the breath of the soul that painted it. And thus, the Sistine Chapel became again what it had always been, a living conversation between the human and the divine. The Last Judgment has been many things to many ages. For some, a moral warning; for others, a reflection on beauty; for many more, a metaphor of the soul seeking its meaning. But above all interpretations, it remains the reminder that art is the highest form of revelation. Michelangelo did not paint a dogma. He painted an experience, the human consciousness confronting the absolute. That experience belongs not only to believers, but to anyone who has loved, suffered, created, or lost. In it we recognize the pulse that makes us human. The secret of the fresco is that, beyond its religious theme, it speaks of life. The bodies that ascend are not angels, they are desires. Those who fall are not demons, they are fears. Those who look at Christ are not saints, they are souls daring to remember their origin. In that cosmic theater, each of us can find our reflection. That is why, when our eyes rise to the wall, we are not contemplating a distant painting. We are contemplating our own story translated into light. Michelangelo, at the end of his life, wrote that his art had been his prayer and his condemnation. In the Last Judgment, that phrase becomes visible. The artist judges himself alongside all humanity. He asks neither pardon nor glory. He only shows what he saw, that beauty and pain are inseparable, that redemption is a path made of shadows, and that all creation is a form of faith. Today, centuries later, the fresco continues to speak to us with the same power. Each day, thousands of eyes lift toward that wall and feel what the first faithful of the 16th century felt, a mixture of fear and wonder, because the Last Judgment does not belong to the past. It is an eternal mirror of the present, a warning and a promise, proof that even at the edge of time, light endures. There, between heaven and hell, between guilt and grace, between color and silence, Michelangelo left us the most human image of the divine and the most divine image of humanity. And when one leaves the chapel, with the echo of the fresco still in one's gaze, one understands the true lesson of the Last Judgment, that every man is called to create, to transform his own shadow into light. Because, as on Michelangelo's wall, in each life an invisible judgment is waged every day, and in that judgment, it is not a distant God who decides, but the consciousness awakening within us. There lies the miracle. There, in that instant of silent understanding, art becomes eternity.